Good afternoon, everyone. Very warm welcome once again to all of you. So today's session is going to be very exciting. Stay tuned till end and you can ask any of the question at any point of time during the webinar and we will try to cover all your questions. So in this session, I can see a lot of new names. So amazing to get a new audience for this webinar. All right, so it's 3 o'clock and we are all set to begin with our another exciting session on connecting the dots. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. From operating in closed conference room to holding a chief seat at the board, HR surely has come a long way. Today, the role of HR in planning and driving strategic growth is as important as technology or business leadership. Today, HR executives are challenged to develop efficient and effective, simple yet powerful solutions to the people side of business. The new age employees are no less than the customers. Just like without customers, there is no business. Without engaged employees, there is no culture. Join us and be part of this very thrilling session where our experts will be sharing their insights and experience on the importance of HR in today's world. HRAI welcomes you all to this session on connecting the dots, HR in business, right size, right side. To know more about HRAI and its event, I would request all the participants to please visit the link and details posted in the chat window. It would be great to have all the valuable feedback as well. For the same, we will be running a poll before Q&A session. So request all the participants to kindly share your feedback on this session. It's now time to virtually meet our esteemed panel members for our today's webinar. Mr. Vinay Trivedi, Head HR, Tontech. Vinay comes with over 13 years of experience in the field of talent management, talent engagement, and talent acquisition across IT, ITES, banking, insurance, and fintech sectors. Experienced in managing entire gamut of HR, creating smart acquisition strategy, creating people engagement journey, managing performance, drawing up the learning journey, managing HR compliance, payroll, statutory requirements, and creating a great place to work. You can also follow him on LinkedIn. The link for the same has been shared in the chat window. Our next panel member is Ms. Shivani Malhotra, co-founder and CEO, Positive Vibes Consulting and state president at Wiki. Shivani is an award-winning seasoned HR and learning specialist with over 17 years of experience in various senior HR positions at reputed Indian and multinational companies in India and abroad. Shivani is a passionate trainer and has successfully designed and conducted many programs on complex behaviors and leadership effectiveness for prestigious clients of Indian and multinational companies. Having worked in prestigious companies such as DCM Shriram Limited, Yum Brands, which is parent company of Pizza Hut and KFC, and KPMG, Shivani started her own venture, Positive Vibes Consulting, in 2016, a fast-growing HR and training consulting firm based out of Gurgaon. Positive Vibes has been bestowed with the honor of the Startup Excellence Award 2020 and has been recognized as one of the promising startups during path-breaking work by HR Success Talks in 2020. You can also follow her on LinkedIn. The link for the same has been shared in the chat window. Our next panel member is Dr. Soumya Badgyan, General Manager HR and IR, Gold Star Jewelry Private Limited. She comes with 20 years of immense corporate experience in the field of sales, marketing, corporate strategy, and HR with complete knowledge about all the segments of various markets in the field of luxury products, jewelry, sales, human behavior, and their countless interplays and ramifications. She has been leading the human resource strategy function for employee business unit, including training and onboarding, performance management, retention and development, and benefits. She also acts as a strategic business partner to general and upper management while limiting legal risk exposure through strong knowledge of employment law. Soumya is an MBA and with dual specialization in marketing and international trade, which PGDPM gold medalist, and she has recently completed her PhD in analysis of functions, efficiency, and profitability of a particular e-commerce from Rajasthan University. You can also follow her on LinkedIn. The link for the same has been shared in the chat window. I'll now introduce our panel co-moderator for our today's session, Ms. Harshita Chaudhary, OD and Talent Global Lead and HR Leader, Corporate Functions Company at Freshworks Inc. Harshita is a global organization development and talent manager for Freshworks Technologies, also HR leader for global corporate function. In her role, she leads the portfolio with focus on areas of performance management, engagement, and leadership development. Harshita started her journey with Mondelez before moving to Colgate-Palmolive India as business HR. Previously, she was the head of talent at Nestle South Asia region. Harshita is passionate about diversity, equity, and inclusion, a candid speaker in forums, also a mentor for a number of students and budding HR professionals. You can also follow her on LinkedIn. The details for the same has been mentioned in the chat window. I hereby hand over the platform to Ms. Harshita. Over to you, Harshita.
Thank you, Nehali. Thank you for your kind introduction. So quickly jumping into the topic that we have to make the most efficient use of time. So we are talking about today about that function which handles the most important resource of an organization, its people, right? Over the years, we've seen how HR has really become that indispensable partner for business, bringing on the right voices of the people on the floor. So without much ado, I'm going to look at our expert panel to tell us that this whole story around the quest of HR to have a seat on the table, to be the strategic partner. How have you seen this journey happening? What are some of the things you think really have worked? And what is that journey, still a little part of it, which is still pending to be achieved? So over to you, Shivani, to get your thoughts on this.
Sure. Thank you, Harshita. It's a very pertinent question to start today's discussion on. You know, the very fact that we are calling it a quest is an indicator that a lot needs to be done. Why is it a quest? You know, in the coming times, for any HR professional or HR department of an organization to survive and stay relevant, they have to take a seat on the table. There is going to be no choice. Gone are the days when HR was working in a silo, irrespective of what's going on in the business. Today, HR that partners with business and shares the vision, the strategy, and the business goals is the HR that is going to survive and thrive in an organization. So it's time for HR to step up and take its rightful place in the boardroom. And to do that, HR has to look from the lens of the business. One question that every HR leader needs to ask himself or herself is that whatever I'm doing today, does it cause friction in the business or does it create flow? Friction is anything that makes it more difficult for people in critical roles to perform and deliver. And flow, on the other hand, is doing everything possible to remove barriers and promote and facilitate better performance. So once HR learns to create that flow rather than the friction, that's when it takes the seat in the boardroom. And to your question in terms of what has happened, whether we are there or what is the shift? Yes, the shift has happened to some extent. From being seen as a revenue drain, HR is now being seen as a revenue enhancer, even though in a little more intangible form. For example, today HR is working actively with the marketing team to boost their employer brand as well as the organization brand. So the results are that candidates are clamoring to get their foot in the door, right? Similarly, HR is working with corporate strategy teams, aligning the business strategy with workforce planning. So the result is very measurable and actionable forecast for growth and success. So today's strategic HR professional must understand the boardroom speak and be able to effortlessly, translate the value that they bring to the table. And that's when this quest will be over and HR wouldn't need an invitation to come to the boardroom. It will seamlessly become an integral part of the boardroom. So those
Thank
are
you,
my
Shivani.
thoughts.
Thank you so much, Shivani. Dr. Soumya, you've been in this field for such a long time, right? You've seen, if I may use the word, the whole evolution of HR, right? How do you see to what Shivani says? Have we actually become a revenue enhancer? And are we adding the value that business expects us to add? Dr. Soumya, you're on mute.
Well, I think I'm very sorry about the mute. I think Shivani has covered a very wide spectrum already, and she has articulated things very well in the way that the contributions of HR has, evolved over the time and how it has transcended. Well, for me, I'm seeing a very beautiful journey that has happened. 2008, 2009, when the recession struck us, that was the year of the CEOs and the CFOs. There was the financial year. This time during the conference, during these pandemic, I think we've already earned our place inside the boardrooms and the conference rooms. Earlier we were just the passive, something happened in the boardroom, we were just given a direction. You have to do this. We were always the ones who were directed as to what needs to be done, and a very passive, entity in the organization. From there, we have graduated to taking care of the primary assets, which is earlier it was very fancy and it was, me too kind of a thing to be said that we consider our human beings as the assets. During the COVID times, that has changed. No amount of technology, no amount of machinery, nothing in the world will actually come and play around if you lack the human intervention there. So that is something wherein HR has played a beautiful role during the pandemic. And I think we have earned our place. And I think now that, I just attended a board meeting today in the morning. And now that, when they're seeking questions, what do you think if this thing happens? What do you think if there is another lockdown that is going to happen? How is it going to impact the business? And also the satellite offices which are operating out of India, and how is it going to impact the business? That's where I think things have certainly made their shift for the good. So from being a time office to the strategic partner, that's the whole, movement that we've covered.
Thank you, Dr. Soumya. Vinay, to you, the whole continuum that Dr. Soumya spoke about, from a time office to really becoming the strategic partner? How do you see that happening? What have we achieved and what's still to be achieved?
There are about 53 people here in this conversation today. While we've all done a lot of things in the pandemic, and a lot of us, very proudly talk about how HR stepped up and scaled up. Let me ask a question to everybody, and you can use the chat window to respond. And I at least expect, 50 responses minus the 5 of us here. And even we can sort of, share our response. What is the one thing that you think as an HR person you would want to do to help your business that you're not doing? What is that one thing? We have been doing so many things, but what is that one thing that you still want to do that we have not been doing? Can you use the chat window to share your responses once you gather your thoughts? We will take a couple of seconds while you sort of, gather your thoughts, and then you can start typing in. And this is more of just so that we get to know what the cohort or the group is thinking. Soumya, Harshita, Shivani, all of you also can, write down your points. Just the one thing that you still think you want to do. I'm just reading out some messages that have come directly to me as well, so that the group understands. I see flexibility that has come 2-3 times already. I see that aligning policies with business strategy. I see that somebody wants to do a business development role. Somebody wants to be more aligned to business objectives. Somebody wants to focus on career development. The answer, Harshita, to what you've asked, right, is pretty much what you see in the responses. There is a long way for us to go. Yeah. I don't see a reason why we have to be super thrilled and excited and happy that, we have done a great job in the pandemic. Let's face it. What we have done is we've basically made sure that people have the right workplace, the right environment, and the right infrastructure to deliver. That in any ways, I would say in the Maslow's need hierarchy theory, it's our basic requirement. When the workplace shifted into the house, our job is to do that. We can't, brag about it. There's still a lot of things that we need to do. And flexibility, HR not being very flexible, and a lot of you have told that, is a critical parameter which will help us get there. And I still see that we have a long way to go there.
Sure. Thank you so much, Vinay. I think that was a fantastically put perspective. I think great. We've got great perspectives from our panel. I'll just add a thought from my side. I think I have seen in my 13 years that HR has really stepped up to being the strategic business partner. I fully agree with Shivani. It's a quest. We are not there. I think there's a lot to do. But the fact that today business looks at us, even for a function like talent acquisition, and say, okay, give me your perspective on talent. Tell me, where will I get it from? I think shows the partnership we are already showing. Long way to go, but I think we've made great strides there. Okay, so now we have an expert panel with us, and I'm going to quickly tap into each of your experiences. And I really want our audience to learn from the journeys that you've seen in your own sectors. So starting with that, Dr. Soumya, you've been in the manufacturing space, if I may call it broadly, right? You've spent a lot of time there, and it's a very, very specialized industry. And honestly, HR pretty much started from there, as in the whole HR thing of unions and we coming in and, bridging that gap. HR started from manufacturing. So how have you seen that HR has really stepped up its game in the manufacturing sector? Because that's been one of the toughest, right? A lot of us run away from manufacturing jobs right? But I think, how have you seen that we've really made our mark over there? What's been a couple of learnings also, Dr. Soumya, that you could share with our folks like me who'd like to be in the manufacturing sector?
I just love the way you said we want to run away from the manufacturing sector. Believe you me, this is the sentiment that has hit me, I am from the gems and jewelry industry, still a niche in the manufacturing sector.
Yeah.
So, there was no HR, to be very honest, in the manufacturing sector. There was no need of an HR. There was always a time office and an IR. IR was very important because you needed to manage the unions and you needed to manage the voice of the people. So actually, you were not managing people, you were only managing the voice, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Now the undercurrent that has changed. So there was a union in our organization and we broke the union of 17 years in the organization. I take a lot of pride in it because breaking a union is still easy. Not having a union formed again in the next 7 years is what we pride ourselves in. So how did we do that? We actually gathered a lot of confidence at both the levels, at the blue collar as well as at the white collar level. So the journey that I'm seeing here is that how does the HR come and becomes the glue between the two voices, which is the voice of the people and that of the management. And how transparent are you in creating those communication flows between the two levels? Absolutely. What usually happens is that there is always a disruption or a manipulation that happens at either sides. And it is a very honest thing that happens, all right? When I'm saying something like this. This is something that has changed. People have also evolved. They now understand that it is for the benefit of the organization and the benefit of themselves if they do not go and join a union, because all the things that union does is something which benefits one party and not the mass. That is something now has been understood at all the levels. The second thing that has come in, especially talking about the manufacturing industry, is the technological advancement. So, the work from home thing, everywhere there was a big halla happening, work from home. And we were scratching our heads, how do I give a little bit of diamond and, some bit of gold and tell people do work from home? Not possible. Definitely not possible. So how did we do that? We then went into something which was known as the hybrid system, and this is something which was unheard of ever in the gems and jewelry world. And we did massive recruitments, right? During these times, we are undergoing expansion during these times. So we're seeing a whole lot of changes that are coming, wherein we have interlaced and integrated technology with what is today. Also, there was substitution happening. So there was a mass exodus of, blue collar happening. And at that point of time, machineries or the gray collar took over. And how would you measure the production there? And would you say, now we are okay with the gray collar? What when the people come back? Would you still save their jobs? So you had to have a lot of empathy, sympathy, yet to see that the optimization of production and the health of the business gets secured. So this was the journey that we did. So infusion of technology, machinery, man, and methods, everything together. And here we are, evolved much, much better the way that we were in the past. So this 1 year has been huge learning for us, especially for a company like us.
Thank you, Dr. Soumya. And the whole continuum that you spoke about, man, machinery, and method could not have sort of come together if HR was, as you said, not gluing the whole three parts together and managing policies and practices in that way, right?
Absolutely.
So, moving on to you, Vinay, I've seen a lot of your posts, heard a lot of your videos and seen that. And I clearly see you as a as the whole evangelist of the whole employee advocate, the human touch of HR, which truly I believe is a strength that HR brings in. So what I want to understand from you is that how has HR really leveraged that strength today to gain the importance of being a strategic partner? How have we sort of leveraged that strength to become that indispensable partner for business? What's your take on that?
I think I still don't personally believe that we have truly become strategic partners, and there is some way for us to go. Somehow we tend to be very happy with small wins, and we start patting our back saying that, oh, now we are a strategic partner. But in true sense, there is some way for us to go. And the only way that is possible, and what happens is now HR is tasked with sharing good news as well as bad news. More often bad news than good news. More often difficult messages than easier messages. When people don't know how to put it across, they'll come to HR and say, hey, can you please have this conversation? I don't know what to say, or I'm at loss of words, etc. And I've realized this, in the last 13, 14 years that I've spent, what works the best with people, even in and mostly in case of bad news, is if you come clean, if you're honest, if you're straightforward, if you're candid, and if you explain the situation as is, without sugarcoating, mincing words, talking big jargons, scaring them or confusing them as a lot of us would want to do, really brings you onto the table to strategize with them. And I've seen the power of straightforward conversations. I've seen that, the minute somebody believes that you're going to tell the truth, they will take you by their hand and say that, can you come and help us in crafting this strategy? Or can you come and help us in this problem statement that we are trying to resolve? So I think that definitely is one quality that, despite people saying that HR is very diplomatic, etc., I believe in straight conversations, and that has really worked, especially in delivering negative, news. And the indirect impact is that people believe that you will give the right advice, you will tell the truth, and therefore they would want you on their side to devise strategies, and that's how you can become, in true sense, a partner.
Sure. Thank you so much, Vijay. So, Vinay, so we mean candidness with sensibility, candor with consciousness. I think those great things that you've said. And I think truly believe the fact that if everything is just said straight up as it is, without sugarcoating, but of course, making sure that we're looking at the positive and feed forward aspect. To you, Shivani, I think from being a pure play HR professional to really taking on becoming an entrepreneur, how's the pure play HR professional sort of facilitated in being a successful entrepreneur?
Well, I would say being, the transition from being an HR professional to an entrepreneur has been, one that has quite a bit of learning in it. Yeah. The foundation of any business is the ability to create and nurture relationships with people. Business comes later. First, it's the relationships, the ability to network. And that's a skill that I learned in my HR career. And it's, tremendously helped me at least start as an entrepreneur. Secondly, I realized that, the backbone of any startup is its people. Whether the startup will run effectively or not depends on the quality of the people working in it. And honestly, when you're a startup, it's not easy attracting good talent. So this is something that I learned in my HR career, that when you need the right people, but more importantly, you need to make them see your vision and live your dream along with you. That's how you onboard great talent, and that's something that I've I've done in my career of the short career of entrepreneur. It's just been 3 years, and I think being from the HR background. And now, to be an entrepreneur, I think it gives me the ability to appreciate both the points of view. So I can don on my entrepreneurial hat and understand the challenges, the nitty-gritties of the business, the issues, underlying issues. But at the same time, I'm also able to understand and appreciate the people aspect of it. So I think it brings a balance to running a business. If you are from an HR background, it gives you a much needed, empathetic perspective to running a business. So that's how my journey has been.
Thank you so much, Shivani. So the whole, the idea of HR, which starts from people, which starts from empathy, and really translating how to that to a business advantage of how you can look at from, say, from an empathetic customer's perspective, for that matter, right, is something that I think beautifully you've been able to transition into. So adding a couple of points to the fantastic perspectives that you've said is, I think for me, the role of HR has really moved from, and I really feel that the whole role that we started off as an employee advocate still stands very, very strong even now. Because if you're an employee advocate, you're near to the ground, you know what's happening, you have the ears on the ground, you can pick up what needs to get done and really dish it out to the business and say, this is what people are feeling and let's plan around it, right? I think our ears on the ground role never goes away. So that's my a little bit of a take on the whole piece that has happened in HR till now. So moving on, I think a lot has been spoken about the whole new normal situation, right? And to Vinay's point, is the glass half full, is the glass half empty, is our perspective on it. But what I want to really understand from you all is that how have you seen the role of HR becoming more strategic, if I may use the word, during the pandemic? And what are the opportunities really? It's a very oxymoronic thing for a pandemic, but what are the opportunities has the pandemic thrown to HR to really enhance our role even more? And I'd like to start on this with Dr. Soumya, with you. Again, your industry is one of those industries, and you did sort of tap into the fact that you've done a lot of different things during the pandemic. How have you really been there with the business on the ground and made sure that continuity, carries on? And what are some of the learnings you can share with us? What we should do if we are in a situation in the manufacturing industry? Yeah. Dr. Soumya, unmute. Dr. Soumya.
So during the pandemic, what we saw that, or what we felt, the first thought came into mind, oh my God, everything about luxury is going to shut down. We are out of business. Because यहाँ जान बचाना ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है कि कोई हीरे जवाहरात पहनेगा. That was the first thought that came. And the second thought was like, no problem, जितना है उतने को बचा के रखना है. All right. That was the second thought. And believe you me, this is the ground reality I'm talking about the industry perspective. And then the third thought was, oh my God, bank line of credit is going to get screwed. Because as is, we have luminaries there who've done lots of business gojis in the past, and we are tainted. Though the tainting has happened from the 2G spectrum time, but somehow jewelry is always glittering when it comes to this. So these are the three thoughts. So what do we do? So thankfully, I think like Winston Churchill has said, that every bad times has an opportunity ingrained in it. Now, this is something that happened with it, God sent, or whatever name you can give it. But the other countries started giving out packages as sustenance packages to its citizens. Now, when they started giving out sustenance packages in form of COVID allowances, etc., in their countries, what started happening was they were not allowed to go out. Holidays were at a standstill. They couldn't go to any bars or anything. So where would they spend their money? Yeah. So people were cooped in together. So formalization of relationships started happening. Our business started rolling. So that's where we got on, oh, this is an opportunity. And believe you me, we launched 2 brands in the pandemic times. We created designs with our CAD designers sitting at remote locations of Bengal, of Andhra Pradesh, and all got forsaken places, even people sitting in the foothills of Himalayas. We had people sitting right there because everyone had gone from Mumbai. And work from home was a very new thing for us, but people started delivering designs. Now, when I say that HR became a strategic partner, it's because we knew the skill sets, because we had mapped them, we had measured them, and we knew what kind of people would be required to deliver this kind of a product. The manufacturing here was at 33%. That was the allowance given to us. So we started doing double shifts. So 33 became 66 for us, and that's how we managed. And we surpassed exports ever. ever in the history of our existence.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something that, really pushed the role of HR being in identifying where these resources are, because you have, and I'm talking about very base things. I'm not talking about any flowery jargons here or saying that we did this technology, that technology, nothing. Very base level data that helped us identify A, the location of the employee, B, did they have a dongle and a computer and a PC to work on?
Mm-hmm.
See, do they have access to that kind of, the programming software? If not, then we were there to help them out using the cloud technology. And the most important things were that we were taking care of their emotional, physical, as well as financial. Not even one penny that was deducted during the 3 months of no production, was given back. Pays were reinstated, the confidence was built, and now we're going in for, as usual, the increment times. So people have, a lot of faith in what we delivered, because we were there directing, telling them, motivating them. And believe me, we never had any Zoom calls with any plays. We never did any games. We never did any of those things, because I personally don't believe in them. But the whole purpose that this organization should stay afloat was so strong and is so high ingrained in the people of the organization, and we're very blessed with that everyone contributed in their own ways. Now, if we've done that, and if we could touch that, I think we're already there as a strategic partner, because business is now turning to us, seeking solutions. And asking us, is this feasible? Do you think this person or this entity can fulfill this task? So I think that is where we've graduated.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, focusing on the brass tacks, focusing on what's important for every person, and really using that to build trust and show, and not only showcasing, but living that the organization cares for you. I think fantastic journey that you've shared with us. Vinay, moving on to you. Your industry is very different, very fast paced, lots of things are changing at the same time, and the kind of needs that employees may have, if I may use the word, would be very different. So what is it that you folks sort of brought in during the pandemic, which you thought worked, and what are some of the opportunities you think HR could lap onto during this time to show that it's that partner to business and move a little ahead in that quest?
Sure. We practically did not bring about any change in the way we were working, apart from the fact that we moved virtual. And I think I take a lot of pride in saying that as an organization, we didn't have to, do a lot of things. We didn't go berserk in creating rules. I mean, in April last year, I think a lot of HR folks were busy drafting rules saying you have to be online by 9 o'clock. You have to make sure that you're not away for more than 15 minutes. You have to attend your phone call in 3 rings. You have to make sure that you are available till 7:30. If there are meetings, I mean, a whole host of rules and regulations, because nobody knew what and how to deal with it, right? I mean, while HR stepped up, we keep saying, but HR never HR never had an experience with a pandemic, before. We're all the same human beings trying to figure out, acha, kya karna hai? What do we do, kind of a thing, right? Now, all of that, I would say, and I would sort of very strongly say that for HR, it is a godsend. While, with all the disastrous effects, for 3 or 4 reasons. One, today, HR can actually go back to their drawing board and write down saying that we have 100 roles. Out of that 100 roles, we could possibly have 20 roles that can permanently work from home. It does not require them to come to office. There could be about 30 or 40 roles which could work in a hybrid mode. And there'll be another 25, 30 or 40 roles that will need to come to workplace. I think this is a golden opportunity now that the dust has settled down. 1 year is over. People have gotten an understanding of how this works. They should start doing that. And that's how they will strategically help their business teams. Second thing that, definitely HR should think is of how their workforce distribution is. Today, we have high concentration in a lot of cities because of various reasons. And today HR can say that, that we have agreed to have a dispersed workforce, or we have agreed to have our workforce spread across these locations, blah, blah, blah. That is another golden opportunity. Third is revamping their entire recruitment and selection process. If you remember 1 year back, with all the tools available, nothing is new, by the way, right? In the pandemic, nothing was invented. Everything was available even before the pandemic. नहीं नहीं एक बार मिल लेते हैं, body language समझ में आ जाएगा, let's at least have one round face to face. How do we trust? Today you've not even met your people and you're working with them for a year, right? And it's still working beautifully. So I think the model of employers wanting to trust people should not be lost when things normalize, and they should continue to revamp processes that would be logical. And I use this word logical because thank God that there can be some logic that we use instead of saying that, oh, we've been doing this is how it is, blah, 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 and all of that. HR can actually create logical organization structures, logical processes, and roles that needs to work in a manner which could work remotely, which could work in person. That decisions can be taken and business teams would help. So I think there are these 2 or 3 things that HR definitely needs to do.
Thank you so much, Vinay. Moving on to you, Shivani. You would have been working with a lot of clients at this point in time also, of how they can take care of their human capital, and also working with them to strengthening their HR function, right? What have you seen happening in this space, and how have you sort of worked with some of the clients, help them manage the space, and what's been your experience?
So I think, this pandemic has, of course, been challenging for people, but at the same time, let's look at some positive also. So I think the biggest, I would say, boon for HR people is that suddenly with this remote working, there is such a tremendous amount of talent that is at your disposal. Yeah. Because now you can target people who are on a career break. They don't have to get out of the home, they can work from home. Mothers who have taken maternity breaks and child care leave and all of that, they are available. There's suddenly so much of demand of freelancers. So, while on one side it has been challenging, but on the other side, I think it has really opened the doors for good quality talent to be onboarded in an organization. And I think it was more of a mental block earlier that we wanted people to actually come and work, physically in an office. And if you see now the trend, even after things have opened up, companies have realized that there is no point in having an infrastructure cost, and most of the consulting companies have decided to do away with offices, and work from home is going to be the new normal for a lot of people, even after this pandemic, I guess, because this pandemic has dawned realization that it's okay to work remotely as well. It's in fact more cost effective. So some of the I would say not advice, but I would say some of the things that I help out my clients with, and what I suggest to their HR teams is, number one, reinvent and re-evolve your engagement strategy. What worked in the earlier times will not work now. Employee benefits and employee engagement activities, they need to be redesigned so that they are relevant in today's times. I mean, it's okay to play games and all, but that's, that has a very limited sort of an engagement impact in today's times. So for example, earlier we used to go for team offsites and employee picnics. These are now, not relevant anymore. Instead, spend the same amount of money on providing medical insurance or health benefits, or now vaccination support to your employees. I'm seeing this as a new trend that a lot of organizations are coming out to support their employees and their families in getting vaccinations done free of cost. That's a big one. So point is that with the changing times, the people and culture strategy also, has to evolve for you to be able to engage and retain your talent. Secondly, remote working has made connecting with people more challenging. See, when you're physically meeting people, it is easier to keep a tab on the pulse of the organization. But with work from home or remote working being the new normal, and it will continue to be the new normal, like I said, my advice to my clients, and especially to the HR teams, is to go an extra mile to build and sustain the connect with people. The more HR reaches out on a one-on-one level and makes itself available to listen to people, have coaching conversations, and genuinely partner with them to grow their careers, that's when it will be really effective going forward. And I think this is going to be absolutely the new normal. And finally, I advise them to rejig their talent agenda, put people first. And this starts with identifying the best people and strengthening your team, because these are the people who will deliver strong performance and who will wade the organization through a crisis like this pandemic. This is your talent. So these are the people who should be given the maximum opportunities to grow and flourish in the organization. And the responsibility of chalking out a very clear and well-defined career path for such human capital should be the foremost priority for any HR professional in the coming times. So in my experience, and I've seen this with my clients, that companies that have integrated the business goals with their people strategy, even in this pandemic, have been able to attract good talent, create very good high performing teams, and in fact innovate as well. So when HR collaborates with every division in the company, I believe the potential of human capital is absolutely unlimited.
Thank you so much. And just taking your point forward, I think the whole fuzzy areas of HR around engagement, collaboration, wellness, I think today stand very tall and have taken center stage. And HR has been that specialist who's been able to sort of pick up data from there and show how that continuum goes into business performance. And I think for me, a couple of things which have really stood out during this time that HR has been able to look, or really been awakenings, have been one around the kind of employee experience virtually you can still create. How can you still have that glue going on? And I think there's fantastic innovation which has happened on it. And as HR people, we've also been very agile in innovating and renovating ourselves. The second thing is, I think the fact that you have so many number of offices today. There's not one office. Every person's house is an office today for you. How is it that your managers are going to be your brand custodians? Are we investing in them enough? Because they're going to hire people, they're going to do the team meetings. Are we doing enough with them? So those have been a couple of things that been very exciting for me, places that HR could work in and have worked in. So dialing on to the next normal, right? So let's see what that has in store. So just to take on your views, and here I really want some of you all to give us some hacks on how do you see HR strengthening and enhancing its role? What are the tricks that you'd give us, 2 or 3 of them? What should we do? So as we enter the next normal, we continue the strong hold and center stage that we've created. We strengthen our quest, not only or rather, let me say, we accelerate our quest. And how can we do that in the next normal? So how can we do that? And for that, I'd request to start with Shivani. Yes. Shivani, could you share your thoughts on that?
Sure. The coming normal, the coming new normal, I think it requires HR to be far more agile. There has to be a culture of agility in the organization where people can cope up with unprecedented changes in the business environment. And in fact, even in this pandemic, organizations which have been able to continuously innovate and change their course of business, like the example Soumya gave, are the organizations that have done well, in this pandemic as well. And to do that, I think HR needs to truly partner with the business in the true sense. And for that, the relationship, I think HR really needs to work between, on their relationship with the business leaders. It has to be a very high level of trust. The business leaders have to trust that HR is there to look out for them when they need it the most, be it in the form of getting excellent talent, having coaching conversations, proactively reaching out to build and strengthen relationships, or simply to, advise and help business leaders in building a strong talent pipeline. And at the same time, employees also in the organization have to feel the presence of HR. And not just in the form of engagement activities, but more importantly, as a career partner. Someone who chalks out a very robust career path for them, offers them great opportunities to grow, and partners with them in the learning and development needs. Also, at HR, I think with the new normal, being set as, work from home, there are certain challenges that come out of that. And HR has to also ensure the holistic wellness of its people. I mean, just to give you an example of my own company, before the pandemic, we were running programs on wellness in corporates. And then the wellness meant was physical fitness, dietary, nutrition, etc. The pandemic has changed the complete definition of wellness. We are now, physical fitness, yes, it is somewhere there, but more importantly, there is emotional wellness, there is financial wellness, there is intellectual wellness, there is spiritual wellness. And I think HR has to be that sounding board where people in the coming times, where people can actually, they feel absolutely comfortable to reach out to HR and look for this wellness that we are talking about. So I think this is how HR's role is going to pan out in the next few years.
Thank you so much, Shivani. Taking on that whole aspect of wellness, what are your thoughts on what are 1 or 2 hacks for HR as we strengthen ourselves for the next novel, or rather prepare the business as we go forward with it?
I think for us as HR, it's going to be very critical that we also keep innovating the way we approach things. We did a lot of ways in which we innovated our approach when the pandemic happened. Now, the key is, can we look at practices which are not the regular ones? I'll give you an example. And we do this at ToneTag as well. We moved away from an onboarding program. What we do is we storyboard. So every department will, when somebody joins new, their job is to tell the story of that department. For everything else, we share a 5-6 slider presentation which people can read through. Now the impact is because they've heard the story, and when they read the presentation, they actually remember the presentation through the story, and the objective of them understanding and getting through their vision and mission actually works out very well. All we did was that instead of taking them through a presentation over Zoom, let's tell them a story. Right? So can there be simple things that you could do which create a high impact? Is something that HR needs to think. We get so entangled in thinking big things and complex things. And the most complex is to think simple, by the way. And the most impactful is when you have an initiative which does not have any money to be spent, right? Yeah. And a lot of people here have heard this before, but for the general health of the organization, it is important to have a gossip meeting at least for 30 minutes every week, where the company meets to only talk non-business transactions. And we've been doing that offline, online. We've continued to do that. The format is very simple. We meet as smaller groups, teams or groups or larger, subgroups. And we talk of what all pathetic things are happening with us in our lives. And we laugh about it. Right? We don't transact business. Now, these gossip meetings are such powerful tools for people to vent out that they suddenly bond well, they start connecting well, they start realizing that they're not the only ones who are suffering, but there are so many others who are also suffering. And suddenly that positivity gets created. So, if people can try this, try storyboarding, try gossip meetings, definitely it'll help in creating a greater bond.
Thank you so much, Vinay. I think extremely innovative ideas. I think the power of storytelling is just starting to be used, I think, in our field. And I think there's immense potential in that whole space. Dr. Soumya, what are some of the learnings that you can give us which will strengthen our position as we go forward?
Be there, be real. That's all I would say. These are just 2 words. If you're there for your people, if you are real, everything else falls in place. You really, if you say, oh, HR is going to be there 24/7, then make sure that you're there 24/7. Yeah. Don't say, don't call me, I'm sleeping. It's not, then you're not there 24/7. And if you say that there is a problem, say, yes, there is a problem, recognize, accept it, and be there and say, yes, but we need to find out ways and means of maneuvering it. Nothing is going to be a smooth process ever. No matter how many documentations and SOPs you keep in place, something will be there which will be absolutely, that will be just thrown on your face, for which you're never ready. So just 2 things: be real, be there, and everything else is taken care of.
Thank you, Dr. Soumya. Excellent thought, because we never know which curveball is going to hit us. So let's be real and let's be ready. Couple of things from my side. I think it's a great opportunity for HR in the next normal, because the whole aspects around people have taken center stage. That's one resource which is really sailed organizations through that. So can we not just be a supporter of business, but actually be trend sensors of business? Can we sense the trend in people and guide the business of what we need to do? And adding to what Vinay and Shivani also said, be in touch, have the ears on the ground, have the pulse, because I think that's our strength. That's the information strength we have. I think definitely organizations need to think of every practice and policy to have inclusion and think of it as scale, right? How can we be inclusive, right? Because that's one thing, whether it's a new joinee not joining the tribe or whether it's anybody, are we thinking inclusion, right? Because everybody's sitting out of their home and may feel left out if not thought for, right? Every person is important. And I think the last thing, as I think Vinay said, keep it simple, keep it intuitive, right? People are going to dealing with a lot of things. Can we make it simpler for them? So thank you. Fantastic discussion. Our next segment is going to be, we are going to take question answers and question the answers that the participants have already shared with us. Please keep sharing your questions. We're going to try covering as much as possible. And we already have a set of questions that people had registered, and we're going to start with them and we're going to try covering as much as possible. You're also going to now receive a poll at this point in time to give us feedback on how you felt the session is, what are some of your comments, and please do fill that in, because that really feeds into how we can plan the next of the session. So quickly jumping on to the question, the first one is for you, Shivani. I think there was a question on what is organizational right sizing? When should it happen? What factors determine it? What's the role HR plays? And what is it that the HR should do so that it's owning that with business and not just really doing the bad part of it?
Well, right sizing is a term that's been unfortunately used a number of times in the last 1 year. And that's because, like it says, like the word says, right sizing. It's about having the right financial viability for your organization. So when you think that the business scenario has changed outside and it's no longer financially viable. When I'm saying financially viable, I mean to say when your revenue is not able to cover your operating expenses. I'm not talking about capital expenses, the operating expenses. That's when you delve deep and you see which are the major cost heads that you are incurring. And one of them definitely happens to be, for any organization, the payroll, the employee cost.
Yeah.
And that's when the thought of right sizing comes. Now, most of the organizations perceive right sizing as a threat. I'll be very honest. And they do it in a very forceful way. What we don't realize is that doing it this way not only brings a major hit to the brand image of the organization, it also acts as a major, blow to the trust of the people who are remaining in the organization. And because there is an environment of insecurity that breeds in the organization if it is not done in the right way. So it's very important to handle. And HR, is always given this mantle of doing the difficult conversations and leading the restructuring processes, the right sizing. So I think as HR professionals, it's very important for us to understand on how to approach a right sizing process. And I've done it for a client in this pandemic. So I'll share with you the experience that we had and how we went about it. See, the God here lies in the way you execute this whole process and the way you communicate it to the employees. And the key lies in being very open, very transparent with your people when you're doing this, and most importantly, being empathetic during this process. See, it's not easy for people to accept that they will no longer have a job. And in an uncertain market like today, it's very difficult to find a job outside as well. So the anxiety is understandable. So it's important to do this activity with a human touch. So number one, you need to establish a very strong communication channel with your people. You need to start communicating regularly with the employees about the business situation and keep them aware of what is happening, so that it doesn't come to them as a shock. So you need to very openly, honestly, and transparently explain to them the rationale behind this exercise. Share numbers. I encourage my clients to share numbers, financial figures, projections for the coming quarter, because all this adds to the authenticity of your intentions. And that's when people see it as a genuine need of the business and not just a means of getting rid of people. And another thing that we did at my client was we involved people who are opinion leaders in the organization. We had conversations with them, we brought them on board, and they in fact helped us to do dialogues with people. This really helped in handling this tough situation. Secondly, I would say empathize with the affected employees and make sure that these employees are supported both financially and emotionally. In such a situation, the emotional side of people plays a very critical role. So, as far as possible, try and ensure that your employees do not end up being jobless. And there are two options for it. We all know one is internal redeployment, wherein you redeploy people if you have any vacancies that people can fit into possibly, or you help them with outplacement, wherein you try and find support, in similar kind of organizations having similar operations, and you help them, getting placed there. The third thing is give a respectable exit. This is what I encouraged my client to do, that in addition to giving the severance pay, which you in any case have to give, it's not a favor that you're doing to them. Treat them with respect and dignity. Do take their feedback on how their experience was of working in the organization. Even after they leave, make an attempt to stay connected with them and assure them that when and if things work out well for the company, they would be on your radar for any vacancies. That makes a really, I would say a great opportunity. I would see this as a great opportunity to build a very good employer brand for yourself. Because remember, people will never forget the way you treated them in a crisis situation. So make sure that you treat the outgoing employees with a lot of respect and dignity. And last thing is that it's important to manage your remaining people as well. Because when there is restructuring, when there's right sizing going on, there's the environment in the organization is very insecure. Because people feel that, what about me? Am I next? So HR needs to make sure that there is regular conversation, with these people, by the business leaders, by the department heads. The culture of fear of losing the job has to be systematically eradicated. It takes time, and there is some attrition that you will experience during that time. But I think regular reinforcement and motivation sessions by the leadership team, does work wonder on assuring people in the organization. So these are some of my learnings on how to handle the right sizing carefully and effectively in the organization.
So I'm going to keep dabbling between the questions on the chat box and the questions that we've received earlier. Nihali, you were saying something?
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say that only, like, we would also like to cover all the chat box question, and it is amazing discussion going on, but I'm so sorry to inform to all the panelists that if we can keep answer a little bit crisp so that we can cover more and more questions.
Sure, we'll gun for that, Nihali. And I'm going to keep dabbling between the two because I also want to give respect to people who already posted questions yesterday, right? So let's take a question that we've just received. So Tushar is asking us a question: the revenue and costs being few of the primary factors in business, how HR leaders can shift the HR function from cost center to revenue center. Dr. Soumya, would you want to sort of respond to this one?
First thing is mind shift. If you think that this is a cost center, it will never be a revenue center. So like it is, for most of the trainings, we say that, this is a cost, this is a cost. No, it is an investment. So there is a shift in the mind. There was an earlier question on right sizing, all right? Do you know the difference between a right sizing and a downsizing? Right sizing is just a fancier word for downsizing. Let's not fool ourselves with any of those. So if you know what you are actually aiming at, and if you use the right words, and if you know every department can have their own P&L sheets, you can have your things logged in there and you can see how the cost becomes the revenue. It's very simple, very simple. Simple methods, simple steps, keep it, it's like KISS, keep it simple, silly. That's about it.
Sure. Nidhi's question on the wellness strategy during work from home concept, I believe Nidhi, Shivani's thrown a lot of light on that. So I'm going to keep moving from that one. Vinay, the next one, I'm going to pick up what we received earlier. How do we help an underperforming member of the staff?
I think, to help anybody genuinely lift up their performance is to have reduced spotlight on them. The kind of letters we make people sign because of an unexpected or assuming that if at all something doesn't go right, etc., creates more negativity than it should create as positivity. So two things that you should do when there's an underperforming employee is have human conversations. Don't have threatening conversations that if you don't perform, then the end result is that you may be terminated, and we want you to be aware. Our job is to highlight. Our job is not to do that. Our job is to pull that person out, and so that the person is performing well. And in fact, HR's KRA has to have a certain percentage of target where how many people who went into a performance improvement program came out successfully. The minute you start pinning that, you will see a lot more successful completions than unsuccessful completions. So be human, don't put too much spotlight, reduce the documentation in threatening language. You're sure to get those people, poor souls who are not able to perform.
Okay, there's another, and Nihali is asking me to go through the chat box questions first. So which roles are critical as an HR during and after pandemic? I'll give it a shot. I think the roles—
I also attempted to answer that.
You've done that? Okay, so I'm going to keep moving because does HR also form a policy for data security for the organization? Okay.
I'm answering them in the chat window simultaneously, so it's easier for people to get responses.
So I think Vinay has done quite a bit of that, Nihali. I'm just going to keep moving. Vinay, tell me which you have not done. Can you please tell some of the innovative HR practices during pandemic?
No, I haven't answered that. We covered that briefly, right? Like
we covered quite a bit of it. So I'm hoping, whose question is that? Dr. Kokila, I believe you would have got some inputs. Happy to share more offline. Gayatri, this you have done.
Okay. You can go.
So this is done. So I have questions from yesterday. I'm going to go to them. Okay. Does that sound okay, Nihali? We have, I think, a couple of more minutes that we can try answering some of them.
Yes, we have last 5 minutes, so we can cover a few questions.
I'm going to cover just about 2-3 of them because the panelists already have the questions. So the next one was, what are the best ways to manage creative employees? I'm going to give that a shot. I think the best way is that allow them a lot of ownership, a lot of autonomy. I think just remove all the non-value adding stuff they're supposed to do, remove all the process shackles that can exist in an organization. Don't ask them to go and take approvals. Give them the autonomy. Let them be an incubation center in themselves. And I think you'll see a lot of creativity and a genuine, really intended towards the organization growth, and not just for the employee. When you also attach purpose to what they do, right? And you show that clear line of sight with business. The next one we had was how to manage an employee's sense of entitlement. Shivani, this is the one that we discussed. Manage an employee's sense of entitlement when managing their performance. And yes, we deal with a generation which may come with a little bit more of this.
Yes, I think, when we give an impression to people of being entitled, then somewhere we as an organization have set wrong expectations by either setting precedents like giving promotions to less deserving people in the past, or we've not had enough, dialogues with our people. And the exact problem is that many people managers, they share feedback only when it is appraisal time, which is once a year. Now think of the employee who's feeling entitled. He feels that during the year, okay, everything is going fine. I'm doing really well because he's not had any dialogue with his manager. So in his mind, he has the right to feel entitled. So I feel, doing a lot more communication, one-on-ones with your people, performance dialogues will give you a platform to share your feedback more regularly and also keep the expectations in check. And even for the employee to be, actually in the realm of awareness of his actual performance. So I think this is what would really help in curbing this entitled mindset.
I'll just add a 30 seconds piece of my mind on this. I'm sorry I had to butt in here. Firstly, you sort of entice the new joiners by giving them so much attention when they join with coffee with the CEO and this and that and all of that. And when the reality hits them, you go and blame those poor souls because at first you've made them, feel entitled. I think we have to relook at the way we treat people. And possibly reduce certain attention giving techniques that we had, because that's only creating a negative, impact. So I think there's definitely scope of relooking and improving there.
Absolutely. Thank you. Dr. Swami, I'm going to give you the last one, and I would request your inputs on this. How actual analysis happens in terms of mapping resources with business needs, how to find out the optimum mix between right size and business needs. Nihali, is that okay? We're going to close out with this question and maybe move to the last part of it, right?
So it's very simple. First is that most of the HR don't even know the business that they are in for. I'm very sorry to say that, but most of us don't even know the business that we are, heading as the HROs or the head of HRs. So first is you need to define your business. You need to understand your business and understand the 4 resources that are there in the business: financial, physical, your intellectual resource, and definitely the human resource. When you map, and I'm specifically talking about all the resource because I'm also part of the strategic team. So when you map each of these resources against the business, it's where you start identifying the gaps. The gap analysis is where the whole solution to the problem lies in. We tend to overlook it or substitute it. Never do that. The moment you substitute, you're going to bring down the standards, because it's like iske daam pe ye mil raha hai to kam daam wala le lo, but then you're somewhere just compromising on quality. So never do that. And then once you start mapping, allocating, and then reassessing the entire business is where the whole fun part begins. Otherwise you will be in very funny times. So to save yourself from funny times, get involved, be hands-on with the business, get into the real strategy of what business is all about, and then allocate resources. Like, our business is expanding. I'll give you a very simple example. So if I can just use, we were making jewelry that was more for the Walmart kinds, which is the church gate kind of jewelry, very, very chota mota items. Then suddenly we are into this brand, and each of our items is retailing at, 10,000, 12,000 US dollars. So when you move that spectrum, the skill sets that you require, even before you even are thinking to get that business, you need to have an entire alignment in place in terms of finances, in terms of skill sets, in terms of resource deployments, whether it is machinery or anything else, technology in place or anything. And most importantly, you also need to have the shift in the mindset. That chalta hai attitude for anything won't work. And this is what the crux lies in. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Just 30 seconds, and for any HR folks that, and to what Dr. Soumya also mentioned, she hates it when somebody calls her Dr. Soumya, so I'm deliberately saying Dr. Soumya.
Yes, it's not right.
I know that, sorry.
Not fair in it.
So the thing is, when we say that we don't know our business as well, and Shivani, because you've moved on the business side, I'm sure you must be thinking that, how is this person, you're an HR guy, when you go for business discussions, right? And you were on the other side a couple of years back. Every HR professional should, on a yearly basis, take on a 1 week to 10 days of internship in a business department where they are double hatting and doing a business role. The empathy, the understanding of business, the ability to hire the right talent, a whole host of perspective will change. Just try doing 2 hours of internship for 10 days every year, and you will be up to date and people will love you. That's one thing that I thought I should, leave all the future HR leaders, current HR leaders, past HR leaders, all of us, I think we have to do that. It'll definitely help.
Thank you so much, Vinay. So I'll move ahead, Nihali, and then I'll hand it over to you. So we've had a great conversation. I'm going to just give it a shot to summarize it. Please pardon me if I'm not able to pick up everything that we've spoken, because it's just been fantastic and a lot of learning even for me. I think just carrying on from what Vinay just left, I think as HR people, one of our biggest mandates is to be able to see it from the eyes of the business. I think we've really, really moved, but the word quest remains, and it is still stuck to us. We are going to make a more rapid quest maybe in the coming years, and we are going to be on that journey. But some of the things that all of us, I think, agreed to is, let's keep it simple, let's keep it intuitive, let's keep it real, right? And HR brings that sanity and reality into situations, that ground sameness into a lot of decisions. It's the glue, as Dr. Soumya said. It's the wellness, as Shivani's mentioned. And it's a lot of other things that Vinay has mentioned and informed us that they are there. And the fact that each one of us needs to go to an internship and learn about business. It's lesser said than done. And I think we all need to do that. The other thing we all discussed, and I think we all agreed to, is that the pandemic has been an opportunity for HR to really step up. It's our role, as Vinay said. We've not done something which we weren't designed to do. It was pretty much our role to do. But I think the way we've stepped up, I think the way we've supported the business has really enhanced and brought us to the center stage. A lot to do, but we're there. At least we've moved the needle, right? And towards the end, one of the things, again, I think all of us resonate with is keep connected to people. That's our bread and butter. We were designed to be that function. We were designed to be in the business of people, right? So let's be there and let's be with them, right? That's never going to go away, and that's never going to go out of fashion for us. So I think I'm going to summarize. I hope I've done a decent job of doing that, but that's about it. Thank you, folks. It was fantastic. Thank you. Nihali, over to you.
Thank you so much, Harshita. So once again, I announced the poll. I would request all the participants to please give your valuable feedback on today's session. So once again, thank you so much. Thank you, Harshita, for moderating this session and taking maximum number of questions. Thank you to all the DL panel members, Mr. Vinay, Ms. Shivani, and Dr. Soumya, for your insight. It was amazing session, lots of takeaways and lots of learning. And I would also request all the participants who have not attended this session, but if you want to share the link of this session, you can access our YouTube channel, HR Association of India. Before we conclude with our today's session, we would also want to thank all the association, Geisha, NASCOM COE, GlipTalk, Telgrow, TLE, LinkedIn Local Ahmedabad, and India for supporting HRAI events. To know more about this association, I would request to visit the link which is provided in the chat window. Also, do join us for our next Connecting the Dots series on the topic Diversified Workforce, Understand, Engage, and Lead on the 8th of April 2021 at 3 p.m. I could see like somebody had asked the question like how we can be part of HRAI member and how we can get the update. So this is the next webinar we are going to have. Also, you can visit our Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and also visit our website to know more about HR Association of India. I would request all the participants to register for this event for the link mentioned in the chat window. Once again, it was amazing session today. Thank you so much to all the speakers and participants for joining this session. See you soon. Stay safe, take care, and bye for now. Looking forward to see you all on our next session.
Bye.
Thanks, Nihali. Bye, folks. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Shyam. We can conclude the session.
Thank you, Neha.